Newcastle still in a sticky situation. This goes back 38 games, really, 7 wins in 38. The pressure was always there. The new ownership have come in, but what they can't do is fix something this quickly. How do you see this turning for Newcastle?
Survival is the most important thing first, Laura. Survival of the Premier League, and how do you turn around the results that they're getting now and make sure that Newcastle claim enough points to stay in the Premier League this season. I think that is the most important thing. There can be no transfers, and what sort of transfers will you get in January? And that will maybe be very, very important to actually save this season to stay in the Premier League. So I think that all the hype around Newcastle is very, very good, but the term is patience and progress will take time. Probably more in so because of financial fair play. So really it's about survival for Newcastle. And I think that watching the game yesterday, it's that Steve's torn between this all important, we must entertain, and leaving himself wide open for counter-attack and being too open when the opposition get the ball. I saw Newcastle trying to close down from the front, but then once they got one pass past the forwards, they were into midfield and straight at the back four. So the gap between the defence and the front men were far, far too big for most of the game. And hence, it gave too many opportunities for Tottenham to score. So a more resilient defence might have been something that could have been a tactic. But yet again, the Newcastle fans see that as a negative and talk about it being boring football, So he's got to try and get the balance between both.
Yeah, Sam, you talk about survival. Would you be more in vain to go, do you know what? What about the loan market? Should we use the loan market to get in some good players? You've done this yourself at Crystal Palace and you did it at Bolton, where you bring in players where you think, this will keep us up, and we'll think about the bigger project next summer.
Well, in my opinion, Tony, that's spot on. I mean, the loan situation can be used across the board, across the whole of Europe, for the problems that you have to try and solve them. And many clubs, again, this January, because of the pandemic and loss of financial gain, will be willing to loan players, but loan quality players. I got a couple of loan quality players at West Brom last year from Spain and from Galatasaray. So it can be done. It needs to be worked on really, really hard. It's really difficult, but you can get there in the end. And 3 or 4 players in January has always been the mainstay of staying up. But we'd have to wait and see what happens between now and January. But certainly the start for lots of clubs down in the bottom of the Premier League there. I've never seen as many clubs with so few points at the bottom at this stage of the season, 8 and 9 games in, probably 6 teams, maybe more than that, only on 7 points, which is obviously very dangerous for all of those teams. And we've already seen one casualty at Watford. And as time goes on, as we all know, get to November and December, we'll probably see maybe 1 or 2 more if they don't turn things around.
Sam, obviously you know Steve really well, and you talked about there that getting caught between 2 stools and how you play, which I totally agree with. I think he's fell into that trap, and because of everyone's expecting the excitement that was there yesterday was there for everybody to see, and it was very costly because the one thing that Tottenham do have is Lucas Moura, Harry Kane, Son, Heung-min Son. That they're all dangerous and they're all great counter-attack players, which they paid the price for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, you've got 50-odd thousand excited fans in St James's who want to see you going forward and attacking. Unfortunately, you're left between the devil and the deep blue sea when it comes to that. And of course, the Newcastle fans, while things are going well, are absolutely fantastic. They will lift the roof off. But yet, Newcastle fans, when not going well, it's another kettle of fish, believe you me. And it can be very, very deterring and upsetting for the players when they hear those sort of boos and jeers about how poorly they're playing, and that makes the players playing at home nervous, believe you me, and that has happened over many years, to be fair. So you have to have really strong players in that situation by being determined enough to say, well, we're going to turn these fans around into cheering us, and they will if you get on the right foot and get on the front foot and give your all.
I was wondering about that this weekend because the performances that we saw from some of those players, Sam, considering they've got the new ownership in the ground and they made such a fanfare of it, it just didn't feel like there was a lot of motivation from a lot of those players to say, here, I'm a player and I want you to keep me at this club.
Depends on the fear, Laura. If the fear overtakes the confidence of a player, then the player goes out and stumbles and looks like he's not trying. And that's purely and simply a mental factor that we have in the game today. There's such pressure to go out and deliver now, such pressure all the time from every angle. And of course, when you're put under that pressure, it's how you're able and capable of dealing with it. If you use that as a positive, then you go out and play your best. If you feel that gets to you and it gets you anxious, then it could lead to fear, and fear will get the lead boots on them, saying it looks like you can't even run around. So it's a very difficult position to be in as a player if you're in that position yourself, and you've got to find some help through the club, through the system, to make sure you're getting a positive frame of mind. You have to have a positive frame of mind in every game at the top end of this league, in the Premier League. You have to believe before you go out that you're going to play well. Otherwise, you won't.
Results aside for a second and performances aside for a second, the situation that Steve is in at the moment, he's come out and said he'd like some clarity from the ownership about his future, about what's going on. How difficult could it be in that situation where you are Steve Bruce and you are waiting to find out what's happening, how long you have, whether or not you need to start looking at transfers yourself? How hard could that be, Sam?
Well, you want the clarity, but if they're not willing to give it you, you have to carry on doing your job as a professional at the football club. So you have to carry on the day-to-day stuff that you would do normally. Obviously, that's massively difficult because you're not going to. If the players think you're going to go very shortly, they're not going to go out and give their 100% for you. They're going to sit there and wait and say, "Well, I'm going to wait to see the next man come in," which is not what a player should do, but it's understandable that the effect that it has on them. We'll be thinking that, So, it's up to the board to make the decision either way. We're sticking with Steve until such time as we may change our minds, which may be from now till the end of the season, or they bite the bullet and say, "Thank you, Steve, thank you very much," and then have a caretaker manager for a while until they're finding the right manager. It's easy-ish to find out today who they're trying to get. I had the same problem when I was there. I knew who they were trying to get, and I was just waiting for the axe to fall. So it fell, and I moved on. But I knew from weeks beforehand that it was coming. So I just got on with the job as I possibly could. And then when it actually happens, you're sort of almost relieved because going on in that situation is not a very nice position to be in.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday morning 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.